Hello everyone, today we are doing a haircut with Gabe, and I'm going to demonstrate just a nice clean haircut. As you can see, his hair isn't too messy, but we are going to tidy it up.
Without product, it usually falls on my forehead.
Do you have product in right now?
No.
Okay. So before you cut hair, it's always good to take a shower. Have them take a shower first, or you wash their hair, which I'm not going to do. And then make sure it's dry. And no product. That's the best way to cut his hair because it's going to lay naturally this way. Yeah. We're probably going to cut off maybe half an inch of hair. What is so funny?
You're like groping my head.
And then through here, we're going to do probably like a 2, a 3, and a 4. And across the back, we're probably going to do about the same, maybe moving up to a 5 or 6 through here. All right, so let's get started. Alright, so I included this color key here that's actually on the wall cutter trimmer I have, so you might want to pause and write all those numbers down. And we shall begin. Now you're only going to want to go up about halfway to, well, a quarter of the way to halfway up with this. Now I'm using a 2 on his hair here. All hair is different, so you might want to just experiment with a longer guard, so like a 3 guard instead, because you don't want to cut off more than you need to, because you can always go back and do that later. I'm going to kind of speed up the video in some parts. The part you're seeing right now, I'm just blending it in, and if you watch it as I blend it in, I'm pulling the trimmer back as I get right to that line. So up and back. And that's how you're going to get a really good, clean fade in. So now I'm using a 3, and I'm going up a little higher this time. And as I'm reaching the longer hair, I'm pulling up and back off of the head, and that's the best way to give it a perfect fade, like I said before. So you're gonna actually see me do a lot of that in this video. Now I'm using a 5. I skipped a 4 and I went straight to a 5 across the very top there and across the back. Now I am going to go through with scissors later on in the video. This is kind of just to make it easier for the whole scissor part. So I didn't actually need to use a 4 before the 5, so we did a 2, 3, and a 5. And we skipped the 4 because of the way his hair grows. It didn't need a 4. What you see me using right here is actually a 6, and I'm just gonna kind of come through like across the hair instead of up, and it's just kind of line up nice. Now right there's a line there. It's kind of difficult to see in the video, but in reality it stands out just a little more. So I'm using a 2 again, and I'm just kind of blending that in again, holding it really lightly against the scalp. And as I get to that part where that line is, I'm again doing that motion of, going up against the hair and then pulling it out as I go along. Now I'm going to go over the whole rest of the hair where we cut it to, just to clamp any stragglers. And then through there, there's a little bit of a line, so we're going to clean that up a bit too. Again, using that same motion, which is really key to everything. If you can get that motion down, your haircut is going to look just so much better. So, I cleaned this up a bit. Now, later on in the video, I'm going to clean it up with scissors even more. Again, across the back, but you see how clean and good the fade is. Now this side, where his part is, you're going to want to cut some of that right where the head starts rounding. So you're going to pull up some of the hair and cut underneath it to get that bulk off of there. So when that hair lays down, it lays more flat and it's not sticking out the sides of his head. So as you can see, the fade is great. There's a little bit of darkness there because it's a little thicker there. So you're going to go through that again like I did. Again, we have that issue there. Here we have a 1. You can adjust the guard. I have it fall up all the way. And you're just going to lightly go into the hair around the neck and the ears, just to give it a sharper fade from going to a 1 to a 2 to a 3 instead of just starting at a 2. You know, if you're doing longer haircuts, like if you're actually starting at a 3 or a 4, you don't need to start with a 1. Here it is with no guard. I'm gonna just tidy up those edges there. You need a decent steady hand for it, but it's not too difficult to do. And I definitely recommend doing it because it just makes the haircut look way more clean and way more professional. So I obviously did that on both sides. Now I'm doing around the ears. Now that part's a little tricky. You're going to want to drop that guard down. And you're going to kind of want to hold it on its side and use it, obviously. And just be careful around the ears because you don't want to clip it. But I mean, there it is. I mean, nice and clean, nice and round. Obviously do the same thing on this side. Trim the sideburns, get them nice and even. I mean, already his haircut looks so much better. Looks like he's almost like he stepped out of a professional barbershop right away.
Do it.
Alright, so we did the sides. It came out pretty good. We did a 2 to about here, and a 3 and then a 4. Some of it depends on how your hair lays, or how their hair lays. I did a 2, 3, 4, and a 5 and a 6 up into here, but I ended up, it's good to cut less first, because if you need to blend it, you can always go back with a shorter one and cut, which is what I ended up doing. So the finished product is really more like a 2 all the way to here, and you can see where it starts to get longer right in here. And it doesn't look blended super fine. It looks pretty good, but it doesn't look super fine because there's a lot of light cast on it. But you can see that obviously goes away when the light isn't directly on it. But so we have a pretty decent blend here, which is like a 2.5 to like a 3. Same here, but this isn't blended too well here. I'm probably gonna take care of that with the scissors, and so we're gonna just cut a little bit off the top. So here we go. Okay, so now for this part, you're gonna take it about a finger's length. You're kind of just gonna work it through your fingers, and then you're gonna pull up your fingers higher the closer you get to the front. So you're gonna want your fingers lower for the back. As you can tell, I'm like keeping it very close. My fingers are basically touching his head as I cut the hair that extends above the fingers. Now, when you do the rounded part of his head, right there, where you're going to connect, you're going to want to pull it kind of like straight up. If you notice, I'm not cutting it like the rest of the hair. I'm kind of almost twisting it and then cutting straight up my fingers instead of around them. So then I just do that basically through that section of the hair. You're going to want to just tidy up the back a little. But you're just going to go across the whole head and just basically do this. And again, the closer you get to the front, the longer you're going to keep the hair. As you can see, that side is really blending in nice. Dude. Usually when I get about 3/4 of the way, well, hang on a second. So you can see that there's a pretty definitive line there. When I get about 3/4 of the way to the front, I usually comb it straight down, and then that way I can see how it lays. Again, for the side, just trying to get rid of that line as much as I can. I mean, 3 cuts and it already looks way better. And you're gonna want to go across the top. And you're gonna want to do it in sections from your right to left. You're not gonna want to just pull it down as like a bang or something and then cut straight across, because it'll look really bad. I'm just tidying up that connector area on the side. I have a lot of trouble doing that with shorter hair. It's kind of difficult to do, so if you don't get it right the first time you try it, no big deal. Now I'm going into the hair at the angle that it's growing or naturally laying, and you're just going to cut in just a little bit, not a lot, but it's going to help remove some of that heaviness that's in there, and it's just going to help it lay better. Now I'm going to come through with a comb, and I'm going to kind of push it against the scalp and then pull it away as I scissor cut that area, and it's just going to help fade that in better. Some people actually just don't even use an electric clipper. They just use a comb and scissors. I'm doing the same thing on this side as well. Alright, so the haircut is finished. So again, a quick overview. Well, I guess I don't have to do an overview of the sides because we already did that. I did some scissor work through here compared to the trimmer here. A little bit of scissor work through here. This part is always difficult for me, the line between here and here, but it after like a day or so it'll blend pretty well, and it doesn't really look that bad. I took about, I don't know, half an inch off the back, and then I moved forward and took like about a quarter inch off the top here. Basically, if you're going to do a dry cut, is what I call it, you don't use any water, so you're going to come through here with your fingers and then lift up. Like if you watched my other video, how I cut my hair. The closer to the front you get, you're going to want to cut less off. So kind of cut it into like 3 sections. So here's long, keep it longer, here keep it medium, and here keep it shorter. And then once that part is done, you're going to want to work through it again and just kind of fine tune it throughout. Okay, so you're just going to, at this point you can probably use scissors like I'm doing right now, and you're just going to want to just kind of fix a few areas up. With the wet method, you're basically going to do the same. It might be a little easier to move the hair off into sections. The only thing I don't like about the wet method is that you're not going to get that natural lay of the hair as you cut. So unless you really know how the hair grows really well, you're just not going to, especially as someone who's not professionally trained, like I'm not, you're going to have a hard time, deciding, how much you should cut off per section that you do. But this came out pretty well. Alright, so there you have it. Pretty nice, even haircut. There's no product in it right now. It's not going to keep falling in his face, and if it does, it's really not down that far. It's got good fading throughout here on both sides. The ears are clean, the sideburns are clean, the neck is clean. So there you go. I'm Aaron, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.